are we okay?
Yeah, we're rolling.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on a Friday afternoon. At least it's a beautiful afternoon. And we're going to try to go through this very quickly so you can get out and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. So my name is Jane Price, and I'm the director of the Internationally Trained Lawyers Program here at the University of Toronto Faculty of Law. And I know you all know what that is because you're here today. So the ITLP is unique. And I like having our open houses because it's a chance to talk about our program. And frankly, we run a fantastic program, so I'm really happy to brag about it a little bit. It also gives me a chance to introduce our alumni, and I'm very proud and actually thrilled about our alumni. So I always love it when we have these open houses because we get to see them and find out what they're doing, and they get a chance to tell you what they went through, which is much better than telling me what you're going to go through because they actually experienced it. I just watched them. And finally, it gives me a chance to introduce you to the ITLP staff, and we actually have a fabulous team of people who, to use someone else's phrase, we hit a lot higher than our weight class, which means that we do a lot with not very many of us on the ground. So let me take a few moments, first of all, to introduce you to the team. First of all, I expect most of you have spoken with Ainsley, is that right? Ainsley is sort of our first line of contact. So there's Ainsley Head, and she knows everything, essentially. Also, many of you may have spoken to Shiva. Shiva Vagai has been with us for a few months, and she is now taking up a lot of the first line of contact. So have you met Shiva? This is Shiva. And if Shiva doesn't know, Ainsley knows, but Shiva pretty much knows everything too. The next person I want to introduce you to is Natasha Smith. Natasha tries to pretend that she doesn't know everything, and she's behind the scenes making everything work, and she pulls all the strings, but actually she knows everything too. And the final person, which is all good, because having all of these people means that I really need to know almost nothing. So the final person I want to introduce to you is Colleen Stanley. And Colleen Kelly. Sorry, last winter we had someone working for us named Colleen Stanley. Colleen Kelly and Colleen Stanley are quite different, but you know, we have a thing about names in the ITLP. Repeat names. Yeah. Anyways, Colleen joined us a few months ago, and we were actually waiting for her for quite a long time. Turns out that she was the perfect work person. We were waiting for the right person. We got her. And she's our career advisor. So if you join us, you'll be working a little bit with Colleen. She's wonderful. So now I've told you about the ITLP staff. And now I'm going to talk to you about becoming a lawyer in Canada and how the ITLP can help you. So for the sake of brevity, if you'll indulge me, I'd like you to hold your questions until I get through this little description, and then we can have questions, okay? So I realize I'm going to explain some things that many of you probably already know, and you know very well, and some of you don't. But because it's a complex process, I'm going to describe how to become a lawyer in Canada, and I'm going to go through it, all right? So to begin with, I'm going to take you through the process if you were educated in Canada. So if you were educated in Canada, and you want to join the legal profession, here are the steps you must complete. Step 1, you have to graduate from high school in Canada. Step 2, you need to go to university, and you need to do an undergraduate degree, BA, BSc, whatever you like. Step 3, you apply to and get into law school. You attend law school for 3 years. After you attend law school for 3 years, you apply for and obtain an articling position. You article for 10 months, you write licensing exams, you get called to the bar. So to become a lawyer, if you were educated in Canada, it's 7 years of post-secondary education, 7 years of education after high school, all right? Now, if you're an internationally trained lawyer, a group that we're going to call ITLs, just so that you know my abbreviation, you have to complete 2 separate processes. The first process is accreditation under the National Committee of Accreditation. The second process is licensure under the Law Society of Upper Canada. Again, pardon the acronyms, but if you go through with this, you will become very, very familiar with these acronyms. Okay. So the accreditation process, how many of you are familiar with the NCA? All right, wonderful. That is good to hear. Okay, so the National Committee on Accreditation is a subcommittee of the Federation of Canadian Law Societies, and they have been delegated the authority to accredit international law degrees. So every internationally trained lawyer who comes to Canada and wants to enter practice here, first stop is to apply to the National Committee on Accreditation, all right? It's a mandatory step for everybody. Once you apply to the National Committee on Accreditation, they're going to ask you for some documents. They're going to say, get me your transcripts. That's the piece of paper issued by your university and sent directly to the NCA that says, I took these courses in law school, these are the marks I got, and I got a law degree. If you practice law in your home jurisdiction, they're also going to ask for a letter directly from your bar, council, or law society that says you were or are a lawyer in good standing in your home jurisdiction. Once they get those documents, and only when they get those documents, they will start evaluating your file. It will take them typically about 3 months. At the end of those 3 months, they'll say to you, you must write 4 NCA exams, or heaven forbid, you must write 14 NCA exams. You know, there's a lot of information on their website about how they evaluate the degrees and so on and so forth, and you can make an educated guess by reading through their website, but it's not going to tell you everything. You're not going to know until you know. But if you're talking to people who are in the NCA process or have been through it, you'll get a little bit more information. All right? So once you get the NCA letter of recommendation, they'll tell you that you have to do a number of challenge exams. You can do those challenge exams by writing those exams through self-study, by applying for and getting into a course at a Canadian law school, or by joining something like the ITLP. All right? After you write those exams, you know, it's unclear how long it will take you to write those exams. Some people do it in, a year. Some people do it in 5 years. It varies enormously. It depends on the circumstances of your life. Do you have children? Are you working part-time? How many exams do you have to write? There's many, many variations, so it makes it hard to say how long this process will take you. After you write all those exams, and you finish, you're successful, you get something called a Certificate of Qualification, the NCA Certificate of Qualification. And the Law Society of Upper Canada says that a Certificate of Qualification is equivalent to having a law degree from a Canadian law school. So then you're eligible to enter the licensing process. The licensing processes in Canada are all regulated provincially by the Provincial Law Society. And in Ontario, we call our law society the Law Society of Upper Canada. I know Ontario is called Ontario, and it's not called Upper Canada, but historically it was called Upper Canada, and lawyers are a little old-fashioned and they've stuck with that. All right, so anyways, the Law Society of Upper Canada, you enter the license, you bring your Certificate of Qualification, they say, okay, you can enter the licensing process. At this time, the licensing process includes 10 months of articles, the barrister's exam, the solicitor's exam, and a professional responsibility component. You may know that shortly that will change a little bit. In the spring of 2014, we're going to have a lawyer's practice program, which will be an alternative articling, but that doesn't exist yet. And the contents of that program are not clear at this point because the Law Society hasn't announced them. So you can say, in the spring, starting this year, you will be able to either article or do the LPP. You'll still have to write the barrister's exam and the solicitor's exam. After you do that, you get called to the bar and you get a license to practice. All right, so those are the processes: accreditation and licensure. All right, so then the question is, what can the ITLP do to help you with these processes? Well, we offer 4 programs in the ITLP. I'm going to presume that most of you are interested in the comprehensive program. Does everyone know what the comprehensive program is? Okay, then I'm just going to go through them. All right, so we have 4 programs, and they're designed for lawyers who have practiced outside of Canada, and who have studied outside of Canada. Our comprehensive program is really a program that's meant for someone who comes from another jurisdiction, is new to Canada, or possibly has been in Canada for a while, but doing sort of a survival job, and really wants to get back into the practice of law. It's a very intensive program. It's full-time, and it's 1 year. It starts in May, and it ends in April. We have 3 classes of 3 terms of in-class instruction that help you to write up to 7 NCA exams. The first term goes from May until August. You write 2 NCA exams in August. The next term is an intensive term that goes August, September, October. You write 1 NCA exam in October. The last term we started on Tuesday this week. It goes October, November, December, January. Write 4 exams in January. From February 1st until the end of April, there's an opportunity to apply for a workplace internship. That's unpaid. All right, so in addition to that, in addition to all of those academic courses, we also offer 50 hours of instruction in legal research and writing, a legal technology course to orient you to how legal technology is used, why it matters, and some sort of practice skills in it, a workplace culture and communication course, a language and communication course, and a career skills course. So it's a very intensive program. And throughout the year, you will be looking for blank spots where there's a break, and I'm afraid that there's not very many. And most of the people who are in the program tell us there's too much in too short a time, but we're not quite sure what to take out, and we can't take any more time. That's the comprehensive program. All right, our career program are for people who are writing the NCA exams on their own and managing. And some people are good at it. They manage to do self-study, they get through those exams on their own, but what they're having difficulty with is their job search. A job search is a culturally nuanced undertaking. Let's face it, if I went to Lahore or London, I wouldn't really know what was necessary to be effective in my job search, so the career program is meant to help people with that. It's a part-time program. It happens in once-a-month classes and then individual coaching sessions. And we've had a lot of success with it, helping people who are trying to get themselves into the workplace but just are not having that much luck. We also run a very short, intensive NCA exam preparation program. This is for people who are working, they just want to pass those NCA exams and they want a little bit of help. It's offered on weekends. We offer it twice a year in the fall leading up to January exams and in the spring leading up to August exams. And we offer 5 or 6 courses depending on demand over a long weekend. Finally, because we realized after we had our first class that some of our students in the comprehensive program had troubles with the bar exams, we now offer a licensing exam preparation course. Again, it's intensive. It's offered twice a year in preparation for the November and June licensing exams. And it is called the Bar Examination Preparation Course. But that might be far away for most of you here today. All right, so let me talk now about cost, money, financial aid. Our programs relative to Canadian law schools are actually inexpensive. I know that probably doesn't help you because you're not a Canadian law student and you're not a young, you're not 19 years old and you have bills and children and obligations. So while our programs are relatively inexpensive, they still cost, all right? So what financial aid is available? Unfortunately, our programs are not eligible for support under the Ontario, under OSAP. However, historically, our students have been eligible for assistance from a program called OBPAP, Ontario Bridging Participant Assistance Program. Now, that's a program offered by the Ontario government to approve bridging programs. And this year, for example, we are eligible to, or we are able to offer those who can demonstrate financial need up to $5,000 to cover the tuition in the comprehensive program, and up to a grant that will cover a maximum of the tuition costs of the other program. So we're not able to tell you in advance of starting your program that you will be getting OBPAP, but we can tell you that historically it has happened. Right? It's an application, or it's a process that you have to apply for in the program. So you can't apply before, you have to apply when you're in the program. And historically, we've been taking the applications right around now in the fall and issuing the funds end of the year or early January. So that's the funding situation. There's also funding, Scotiabank has a line of credit that's available to people who are doing professional degrees. We have had many students use that program. We've also had students tell us that what they've done is they've applied to the Scotiabank program, but approved and then kind of leveraged that with another financial institution. So that's how we deal with that's what I can tell you about financial aid. So the question really is about which program is good for you. And really, I'm gonna actually send this back to you. All of the questions go back to you. Are you ready? It's the comprehensive program is a major commitment. Do you have time? Do you have the money? Are you willing? These are questions that you have to answer for yourselves. It's not a question we can answer for you. We run a fantastic program all the way across the board, I can tell you, but we can't offer something to people who aren't really sort of ready to give us what it takes. And it's not easy. And that's why we brought in the alumni, to tell you what it's really like. So I'm gonna stop now. See, I told you I wouldn't talk for that long. And I'm going to ask Colleen to tell you a little bit about our career program. And then after that, we're going to bring the real stars of today, who are our alumni guests. And then we're going to ask them a few questions, and then we're going to let you ask them questions, all right? And our format is to try to finish, a little bit early, so then you can talk to people individually if you want to, if you're not as comfortable speaking in a group. So right now, I'm going to ask Colleen Kelly to come up, and she can be on camera.
So I'm Colleen. I'm the career advisor, as Jane said, with the International Training Lawyers program. I work with both the students in the comprehensive program and the career program specifically. And I'll just reiterate a little bit of what Jane said about the career program. It's It's a program that's designed for people who are not necessarily needing the academic support that the comprehensive program would give. We don't prepare for the NCA exams that you have written, and in fact, it's probably best suited for people who are in process with their NCA exams or perhaps done. Having said that, we do have some people in the career program this year who are just starting out with writing their NCA exams. And again, as Jane said, the main purpose of having a career program is really because the job search that you're going to be undertaking is very culturally nuanced. I'm very much aware that I'm sitting at a table with people who have a wealth of experience, but it's that Canadian context that we're trying to put you in touch with. The other nice thing about it is, and I was telling this to one of the students this morning, is that there's an element of accountability all of a sudden when you're meeting with a career advisor regularly. So one of the things that I'll be doing with the career program students this year, the people who are in my current program, which started today and it went very well, is I'll be meeting with them once a month. And every time I meet with them, we'll be talking about what steps they're taking in their job search until the next time I see them. And then when we have our next appointment, I'm going to ask them how far they got in their list. And I'll be keeping in touch with them regularly during the month in between our meetings to make sure that they are following through with their plan and that they're, getting some results from it and keeping positive and energetic. On top of that, we have classes regularly where we cover some of the really important soft skills that are necessary for a job search. So interview skills, self-reflection, which is a lot more important than you think it is, writing an excellent cover letter and resume, the art of networking, and how to build a platform for yourself, because really what you're doing in addition to networking is a lot of self-marketing. So that is essentially what the career program is. And I think I've already told you a little bit why. The reason why is just quite simply because it's a window into the legal profession in Canada for you. It's a way to hone your skills to make sure that you're really focused on what it is that you need to achieve your objective, ultimately. And as part of the comprehensive program, we do a very similar thing where we have a career course that we do with the students, and I meet with them regularly to help them with the same skills. All right, so thank you.
Okay, so now we have guest panelists. And I wonder if they would join me. So Keisha Ann Shaw-Hill is here today. Dinah Ball is here today. Sangil Yi is here today. Karul Suthar is here today. And Antonio, our surprise guest, has joined us. So,
Rushing the party.
come on up. Come on up. Yeah, just sit around here. Yeah, why don't we move the notes? And I can get off the camera.
I'll collect your tank card.
Yeah.
I'll give you a...
We need one more chair, right? Should I get another chair from here?
Itu sama mundur. Yang kamu.
Yeah, that's a chair meeting. Oh,
there's one here.
Now we all have
Yeah, go ahead. What did you do with that one? I think they've got
I would say that you graduated.
Okay. All right. I think I've set this up well because now I'm not on the camera.
Oh, really? I was going to put you in it. But
Oh, darn it, she's getting me in it. I think I'm in. All right, so thanks everybody for waiting while we get all set up. We like to bring them back, but we like to get them all front and center. So I actually wrote everybody before we started today and asked them to think a little bit about what they wanted to say just to keep the pressure on. Just kidding. But anyways, we're going to start. I think we're going to start with Keisha Ann Shaw-Hill. And I'm going to let the students introduce themselves, and we're going to ask them to talk about various things. After they've done that, you can ask questions, and then we'll break up a little bit. So, Keisha Ann, would you start off telling us a little bit about your education, your work in Jamaica, immigration, your time in the ITLP, and where you are right now?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Keisha Ann Shaw-Hill. As Jane mentioned, my home country is Jamaica. I was called to the bar in Jamaica in 2006. Prior to my LLB, I did a Bachelor of Education with an English major. Then after my B.Ed, I did my LLB. Our law program is a little bit different from law school in Canada. Our law school is actually 5 years in Jamaica and not 3 years like it is in Canada. But anyway, I worked as an associate in Jamaica for 3 years at a real estate / condominium development firm, and then I moved to Canada. When I moved to Canada, of course, I had to get requalified because I couldn't think of anything else that I would want to do except to continue my career of being a lawyer. So before I moved here, I hadn't done any research. Like, I didn't know that you could apply to the NCA while you were back in your country and they would review your qualifications from there. I didn't know anything. So when I came here, I started the process. I applied for all my transcripts and everything, sent them in, waited, I think it was maybe 6 months. Then I heard back from the NCA, they were really slow. And they told me I had to do 4 courses. So I got the books, started reading. I didn't find it to be very useful just opening a text and reading. The NCA gave me just the subjects I had to do and the recommended text. There were no like, okay, so you're gonna do chapters 3 to 5, 7 to 8, nothing, just the book. And some of these books, I'm telling you, they are pretty large. So I had like 4 sets of books. I'm like, I can do this. I started reading. After like a month, I gave up because it was ridiculous. Like I was just reading. I was not reading in any context. Like it didn't have any meaning to me. I was just reading something from my textbook. So I said to myself, this is not going to work. I'm going to kill myself trying to read these books. So then I went on UFT's website. I tried to enroll in their law school program to do the courses individually. When I tried doing that, they told me, you know, we are not going to take a student to do 4 courses. So basically, you're going to have to apply and redo your whole JD if you want to be in our program. I'm like, that's definitely not going to work. So then I saw on UFT's website that this ITLP thing was coming about and they had a website and everything. So I started reading up about it and I was like, oh, this sounds pretty good. So they had an open house, just like this. And I came, just like you guys are here now. And it was very informative, just like this. And I decided then and there that, okay, I'm going to enroll in this program, just like you guys are going to enroll in this program. So I started the program in May. I had a little bit of a dilemma when the program was starting in May. I actually wanted to know if they were doing it like maybe again in January, but I was told it was only starting in May. And at that time, it was just the intensive program. Like they didn't have all these other good things that they have now. It was just the intensive program. So I had to decide if I was starting in May. And my problem was, well, not my problem, but the issue was I had a 6-week-old baby. So when I started in May, she was 6 weeks. And for those of you who don't know this, I live in Barrie. So I had to commute for like 2 hours to get here and 2 hours to go home and leave my baby at home. So it was really hard, but I told myself that I wanted to do it. I couldn't afford to sit at home and wait another year to start the program the next May. So I just made up my mind and I just did it. So I came, the instructions, the academic instruction part was May to August, and I wrote 2 exams at the end of August. And then after that, we had like our internship program. I wrote 1 exam while I was in my internship and 1 exam right after my internship. So right after my internship ended, I started preparing for the bar exams. As I said, they didn't have all these bar prep courses or anything back then. So the only thing I got again from the Law Society was 2 manuals for the bar exam. So I got the material at the end of April, and my bar exams were June 7th and June 21st. And again, the manuals are very thick. I just started to read. And I just left my house like at 9 o'clock every day, went to the library, I stayed until nighttime, and I just read because I was determined that I was gonna pass these exams and I was not going to defer one. I didn't have any more time in my life to waste because I'd already lost 3 years by moving here and getting requalified, and I wasn't about to lose any more time. So I just read and I just took the exams and passed them. And I also applied for exemption from articling, which is available to you if you have practiced in a Commonwealth jurisdiction for over 10 months, because what you're going to learn during your articling is basically how to be a lawyer, which you would have already known if you have practiced in your jurisdiction. I applied for the exemption. Some people in my year didn't because they figured it would be easier to get an associate position if you articled in Canada, because then you would have work experience or whatever. I just went with my internship experience and I applied for the exemption. And that's it. I was called to the bar in June 2011. And that's it.
Okay, it's pretty hard to follow that. I don't think we've actually, this is the first ITLP baby. So, all right, now I wonder, Parul is not from Jamaica. I wonder if you would talk a little bit about the ITLP, if you wanted to focus a little bit about in class, work with your classmates, class linkages, how the program helped you with the NCA exams, that sort of thing. And also just whatever you want to tell us about you.
Okay, what I liked about the program, I'm going to talk about that first. First of all, my name is Parul Satar. I'm from India. I practiced for 2.5 years before moving to Canada. And I'm from the batch 2012-13. Besides the basic instruction, the academic instruction, what I found extremely valuable in the ITLP program is the additional classes, the culture and communication, the career development, and legal research and writing classes. I mean, there were like so much of additional stuff. When I entered into the program, I was pretty sure what I was seeking. I mean, you all are, like, you know what you would be, you have your expectations. But, oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's great.
But as the program moved along, I did realize that there were like many additional things which I had no idea
Well, I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
You know what,
fine.
I tried to turn this phone off when we started today, and I've done everything wrong, I think. Anyways, I beg your pardon.
That's helpful. That's sort of distracting.
After that, I'm sorry, we probably completely ruined your train of thought.
That's fine, but I think that was really helpful. So yeah, eventually after getting into the program, I realized like there were like many additional things which I thought I would deal with once I'm done with the NCA. My networking skills, the communication are verbal or written, but I don't know how to.
So you found those extra programs helpful, like so they were things that you didn't think were valid. You didn't they weren't on your radar when you started. Is that what you're saying?
I think.
I mean, well, we've had the experience of when we started the program, we realized that there were barriers that internationally trained lawyers faced. They faced difficulties passing challenge exams. They faced difficulties getting jobs. They faced difficulties passing the bar exams. And one of the things we observed is that there were things that are different in different jurisdictions. The way people write about the law, the way people research the law, the way people talk to each other in the workplace, even the use of language. And so we actually added a lot of programming, and we continue to add programming. As Kishan says, it looks a little different now than it did in the first year, to address those issues. And what we found was that some of our students would say, I came here to write a constitutional law exam. I don't want to take a course in workplace culture and communication, which is understandable. But in fact, you heard the word, Colleen used the word soft skills. In fact, what we've observed is that those skills are essential to success. So I think maybe what you were saying, Parul, is those things actually turned out to be more valuable than you thought initially.
I thought there were like a couple of things which I felt I need to work on once I'm done with the NCA process. But I figured out after getting the program that NCA is just, or part of the movie before the intermission. There's like a whole road. Bar exams, yeah, I just say that it's something which makes you eligible for the bars, articling. There's like a whole long process which you have to deal with. And you have to really start thinking about, you have to get the ball rolling about various things, how you are eventually going to proceed in your legal career once you're done with the NCA. And I think ITLP provided a very solid foundation. It provided like many things helped. Like I know I have to figure out how I want to take my career once I'm done with my exams.
Yeah, so that's actually, this is music to my ears, because what I tell students is that I don't want you just to do your exams or just to do this or just do that. You need to focus on all of the things at once. It's like literally you need to sleep and eat. You need to study for your exams, and you need to meet people, and you need to begin to think about your career. It's not, you can't put one thing off and just pass all your exams and start working because you won't have a job. So it's a, yeah.
Yeah, I want to say something more. Because the tendency is, I don't know how many of you have got your assessment so far. As soon as you get your exams, I have 5 exams. I had personally 5 exams to write. You're like, some of my classmates had like 10 exams, and it was like, it's too much. You are panicky. You're like, I just want to get over this, But just imagine, like in 1 year, an year and a half, you're done with your 10 exams. What then? There's a vacuum, there's a gap, and you have to fill that. Now, would you take a day, like 6 months off to work on your skills, everything that is needed to be worked on, and like, how would you search for your articling position? And there are like so many things you have to put in context, and it's better to start thinking about and start working on them along the NCA process and take it like a little slow. So I think the program is pretty much designed in a way which everything is like integrated, and there are like many do's, very less don'ts, but there are mostly do's. Even the online journals which we are asked to post every month, it helped a lot. How to write an email in a North American style. I come from India, where you're talking to somebody in an email. How are you? How are you? How's your family? How's your kid? Like, how's your pet, right? It doesn't work this way here. You have to be very discreet. You have to be like, to the point. I didn't know that. I had issues with that. And I think the program, it's like you learn along the process. So I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry. The reason is I have been like into the books for 6 months. So please excuse me.
she's been into the books for 6 months. She came and spent the afternoon with us, so thank you.
I wrote the exam on like last Tuesday. So. Bear with me.
So Dinah Ball has joined us today too, and Dinah is from the Philippines originally. So Dinah, do you want to give us a little chat? I asked you to talk about the internship and what you learned and how it helped you find work. But I'm happy to hear whatever you want to.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say that I'm from the Philippines, and I'm glad to see that there are three
Oh, nice.
who are here now, and I'm very happy that you're here. And I'd like to talk to you later. Not only you, anyone. Okay, so as Colleen said earlier, the career program opens a window to the legal profession. The ITLP opened the door to the legal profession for me. Because when I came here, I didn't even, like, I thought in order to become a lawyer here, I was practicing in the Philippines for 7 years when I came here in 2007. And before I came here, like Kishan, I didn't know that, like, I thought the only way I can be a lawyer here was to go through the JD program, and I didn't have enough money for the program. I didn't want to go through 3 years of academic instruction again. And so I thought, I'm not going to be a lawyer anymore. I just settled for, I guess, law clerk or paralegal. But then I was like, I still went through I had to go through, I don't know. I just submitted something to the NCA, and they gave me 3 years to finish 8 courses. The first year, I didn't do anything because I was working. The next 2 years was the time when I went and enrolled to the ITLP program. So it's like 2 years into the NCA process without writing any exam. And it was 8 exams that I was gonna write. So I was kind of panicking, and I saw ITLP through the website, and I said, maybe this is for me. This is the way for me to enter the profession. I need help. I don't know how to start. I don't know what to read. I don't even know how to take the exam here. So I was working then. It was a full-time work. It was paying really well. It was downtown financial. And that's like, I was balancing whether I can give that up in order to, because ITLP is full-time, it's still full-time. The comprehensive program is still full-time, right? So if you're working, you have to think about it. Fortunately, I asked my husband if we could work it, and he said, well, he's gonna apply to another firm that would give him like higher compensation, so that would make up for the income that I'm losing when I give up my job. Because I really want to be a lawyer. Ever since I was in grade 4, that's my goal. Wow. Here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I get a legal counsel position later on. I just want to be a lawyer.
Oh,
bottom line. So that's, I guess, that pushed me to go into the ITLP program, give up my job, and did I mention that when I went into the program, I had 2 kids, 3 and 2, 3 years old and 2 years old. Yeah. So in the beginning, it was May, right? My boss didn't want me to resign, so I was just taking like part-time work. I was working part-time. I was attending classes and raising kids. So if I did it, you'll be able to do it, right? Because if you really want it, like Keisha, if you really want it, you go through a brick wall just to go and you can be a lawyer here in Canada, right? So anyway, internship. It was hard in the beginning because I don't know if do you guarantee placements? I'm not sure.
There's no guarantee. No, it's a competitive process.
I know. Yeah, the interview week was nerve-wracking. It was the first time that I had to go through an interview for a legal counsel position, because in the Philippines, while you're graduating, all the offers come in. If you graduate from the first top 2 law schools there, firms, even before you graduate, you get already offers from firms or government, whatever, or the judiciary. you can work there. So here it was the first time for me to go through very competitive, nerve-wracking interview process. And interviews, especially with the government, are structured. They have substantive questions. And they have like index cards and ask you questions on substantive law. So if you're applying for example, crown position, I'd say, or like I applied for CREA, the Civil Remedies Illicit Activities. So they asked me about forfeiture and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily know, but of course you have to be prepared for the interview. The important thing about the internship is that you get to have an opportunity to experience working in either a law firm or with a government legal services branch. So even if you have all the money in the world or you have good credentials, it's so hard to get into a law firm or the government. The competition is stiff, and there are a lot of good graduates from Canadian law schools, right? And I have English is not my first language, so I have a problem with that. I have a problem with issues with mixed culture.
You do not have a problem with English?
No, I do. It's whenever I speak, I still have to think about it first.
Maybe you perceive it, but I don't believe anyone in this room is perceiving a problem with English. That's just like
Lawyer is always liar.
I applied to I was a government counsel in the Philippines, so naturally I applied to 4 different government positions. You have a choice, a good choice. So I got accepted into the strategic planning unit of the Ministry of the Attorney General, which is now I found out it's in the Assistant Deputy Attorney General's office. So you're like you see like you're on the top management. You see everything. So it's strategic planning. So they plan for the biggest law firm in Ontario, which is the Legal Services Division. So I was there for 3 months. My director, apparently they thought I did a good job, so she asked me back right after we graduated from the program. She asked me back for the summer law student program. The good thing about it is you're paid, number one, you're paid. And second, as a summer law student, you get into the hireback pool, which means that if I apply for articling, I have like one time considered first. The pool is considered first before they get from outside of the government, right? So that opportunity is priceless. When I entered the ITLP program, I didn't think about internship at all. It was just NCAs. But after the internship, I got asked back for 4 months. I was paid. After that, now I applied for articling. I got in. You know, how many Canadian law school graduates apply to MAG? A lot. I don't know the exact number, but there are a lot. The opportunity that I got through ITLP is just priceless, I said. So I'm here now. I'm working articling for the Ministry of the Attorney General Flex Articling Program, which means that I get assigned to different ministries within the 10-month period. So I'm now finishing my first rotation with the Ministry of Transportation, and it's very good experience.
So there's a theme that you're going to see. Thank you, Dinah. That goes from, you know, the students say that the ITLP offers them that priceless opportunity, and we do offer great opportunities, but the opportunity is only there if you make it. So, so Dinah, for example, knew that in her internship she really wanted to make connections, and she told me that her office was very close to the water cooler.
Yeah.
And she wanted to meet people because she wanted to know what opportunities existed at the Ministry of the Attorney General. So she said she had a habit of popping out when someone would go to the water cooler and talking to people. And that way, by the time she'd been there, she'd met everybody, right? But these are the kinds of things. It's, Parul was studying for her exams and realized I actually have to go to that legal research and writing class because it's going to help me, even though I really want to work on my constitutional exam. Dinah made sure that she met everybody at the program. Keisha Ann made herself come to this even though there was so much going on. So we do offer a good program, but we have success because our students commit and put themselves into it. So that's what I have to say back to Dinah. So next, I think Sangil. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about your story and what you got out of the ITLP?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really like to give you a kind of hope and bright future. That I came from the Korea, which is the poorest English-speaking country, and I started with 10 NCA exam. And I'm standing here as I was close to the bar June this year. So I traveled with ITLP, and I'm standing here. I'm so much relieved. I'm reflecting those days preparing the ITLP interview. I want to hope to pass this interview. I want to get in the ITLP. But now I'm standing here. So last night, I thought about what I have to tell you guys. So I summarized a couple of pages. It'll take some time, but I decided to tell you every bit of this. So just to make comfortable and listen to my story. I grew up in South Korea and studied law at one of its most prestigious law school, Korea University. The name signifies the best school. Korea is a similar jurisdiction, and it's undergraduate, 4 years program. And I received my first law degree in Korea. And after that, I started a legal career at one of the Chevron affiliates in Korea. While working for the company, I was involved in company restructuring and series of larger scale corporate transactions. As a recognition of my contribution, the company sponsored my education at Northwestern University, Illinois, Chicago. So I got my second degree, law degree there. And I was also called to the bar in Michigan State. And I came to Canada in October 2010. It was almost a little bit more than 3 years ago. Before coming to Canada, I collected as much information as possible, which included obtaining the letter of recommendation. I already received it from the NCA, the letter of recommendation before came to Canada, and about collecting the information about ITLP. For me, ITLP was one-stop shopping to get all the necessary elements to be a successful legal professional in Canada. What I learned from ITLP encompasses from the substantive coursework for NCA exam preparation to profound understanding of Canadian legal workplace through various soft skill courses and internship. And let me talk to you guys about a little bit about my work history. Upon graduation of my first degree, I started my legal career in a legal department of GS Caltex Corporation, the Chevron affiliate. At that time, I did lots of mergers and acquisitions and corporate restructuring and larger scale transactions. After that, I went to the United States and was called to the bar, and then after completing my second degree, I returned to South Korea and continued to practice law as in-house counsel for GS Caltex, concentrating on launching and growing a new business division, that is oil and gas upstream business development. After spending 10 years at that company, I moved to IBM, and I also spent another very successful 3 years there. Immigration to Canada. I spent most of my career practicing law in South Korea at multinational corporations. I immigrated to Canada in 2010 with my family and plan to practice law in Toronto. Some of the motivation is that I want to globalize my practice. I want to observe more. Even though I have 13 years some legal experience, I want to globalize. And the other thing is that my children is quite proper age to be exposed to global education. So that was another motivation. But the most significant motivation was that I'm a Christian, this is really my personal story and nothing to do with ITLP. When I was driving at my workplace, God envisioned me to leave my current comfortable place and go to the land He will show me. And I and my family hesitated for a while because the lawyer profession is really well paid and very stable position anywhere in the world. But eventually we decided to leave our motherland, which provides us everything we need. Believing that faith is trusting God has everything in control, even when all three signs point otherwise. God opened the door for me to move to Canada, the blessed land with God's blessing. Long ago, Canadians came to Korea and gave their lives to let the light shine on the people who walk in the darkness. 70 years ago, Korea was the poorest country in the world. Now there is Samsung, there is Hyundai Motors. It's a miracle, amazing. With many Canadians faithful forward, Korea has become God's nation and it started to thrive in the world. However, God has a broken heart when He sees His chosen people who forget the name of God. He always remembered His own people and made a wondrous plan to revive North America. God sent me here in Canada to use me in His plan to revive His own people. That's my strongest motivation. My ITLP experience, I briefly mentioned my ITLP experience in the first part. The most significant thing that I learned from ITLP for the past 10 months is that immigrating to a new country is not a single step, straightforward work. We can achieve in a week, in a month, or in a year. When I first preparing the immigration to Canada, I planned to finish all the immigration work and the licensing procedure in a year or so. But I have a totally different idea about the successful immigration now. Maybe we can finish all the physical procedures in a year, but it is still next to impossible to make it a successful one, considering our ultimate goal to thrive here, not just to survive. I believe everybody here to thrive, not just to survive. I advise you to rely on work together with ITLP faculty. The sole purpose of ITLP is to help us, the internationally trained lawyers, to successfully find our place in Canada. They have more knowledge, more network, and better insight on every relevant subject matter we are facing or will be facing. Let me give you one example. As an example, I could get an extra exemption for 2 NC subjects by working with ITLP faculty. Initially, I got the 10th subject exam recommendation from NCA. Based on the subject I had taken in my previous LLM in the United States, I thought I have a reasonable ground to request further exemption. However, there were rumors that NCA recommends other subjects in exchange of the requested exemption, or even add some more subjects on top of the initial recommendation. If some candidate challenges NCA recommendation or request further exemption. So I brought this issue to Gina Alexandris, who was sitting in Jane's place at the time, the director. To come up with the possible option, Gina agreed to tap on the chance by writing an official email to NCA before I send them an official request. Fortunately, that worked very well, and I got 2 extra exemptions, which substantially helped me in mentally and financially. So point is that regardless of how small and big issues, work together with ITLP. I think that's the best way. And one of the benefits by signing up for ITLP is that I was featured in the national newspaper, This is during my internship at Stegman Elliott.
That's very
I never dreamed of in my home country, but I was featured in Canada. Let me tell you some last part. My work now, my real work in Canada started from and through ITLP. At the end of my ITLP internship at Stegman Elliott, the internship itself is not guaranteed, and internship is not paid. And at the end of internship, there is no guarantee to hire back or any other work. But at the end of the internship, my mentor at the firm arranged a consultant, paid consultant position at his current, at that time, the client company for 3 months. After spending 3 months there, I was again offered to work as a part-time consultant for Stikeman Elliott's Korea initiative. I put 100% of my ability into work, even though it was just some part-time contract position, and I also try to enjoy every single moment. During the term of the contract, Stikeman again offered me a full-time position as a consultant with the condition of changing the position to an associate of the firm. Can you guess? I called to the bar and my status changed to a full-time associate here, so successfully landed here. And there is a last piece of the story. My full-time contract expired at the end of September. However, rather than pursuing the full-time associate position, I closely discussed with my mentor that we made another engagement that I continue working as a part-time consultant for Stikeman, and I recently opened my own practice focusing on the real estate, serving the Korean community in North York area. Yeah, so I want you guys to take a bigger picture that just as being a candidate, you remain as a candidate, it's stressful, and somebody says that, oh, there is nothing, so becoming a lawyer. I just kid this. That's the lie. After becoming a lawyer, it's so different and so related. Some new word has just begun. So just go for it, no matter what, and try to connect and get the help from ITLP. Okay, that's it.
Bring back the alumni, right? How could we ever match what all of them have to say? So thank you so much, Sengil. And now we have our surprise guest today, Antonio. So Antonio is an alumni from last year, and I could say a lot of things about Antonio, but I'm going to let him say them. Oh, wonderful things. Thank you so much for
I hope I'm not that disruptive, another chair, and this was a surprise actually. I wanted to talk to people that wants to enroll into the ITLP.
We invite our alumni to everything, and sometimes we're lucky enough that they show up.
Yep. They find the information and they come. So I was remembering that I applied for the NCA before the ITLP, and they said, listen, you come from a civil jurisdiction. I come from a civil jurisdiction, it's Venezuela. And they said over the phone, we probably are not going to give you an exam, and the recommendation is going to be that you go to a JD full program 3 years. And I said, well, but I need your letter saying whatever you say to enroll the ITLP. And that's why they gave me that letter, because I wanted to enroll the ITLP. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I enrolled the ITLP is to know the system before I made a full commitment with a JD. That's what I thought at the beginning. So I got the letter, no recommendation for exams. They just recommended to go for a JD. Okay, I know that. I go for the ITLP, and then when I finish, I decide what I'm going to do with my life, actually, right? So it turns out that the ITLP gave me so much information, and I know the system so well, as well as I can know, right? But I know the system, and I know that it's flexible and it changed, and we have to motivate the system to change if we need something that we believe is right. So, but we have to work with the system. I learned all of that, and all that I need to know up to this moment. I need to learn more things to come with the ITLP. Another thing that the ITLP gave me is that it opens an opportunity for a Master of Laws with the University of Toronto, which I finished last September. And that course has that program has 5 courses recognized by the NCA. And I don't know what the NCA is going to say now because my file is going for review. Civil jurisdiction lawyers, they don't take this route. So I'm probably the only one that is going to speak for the civil jurisdiction and a couple of my friends that were with me last year. But I would say if you're going to take the risks and if you want your career to move forward, do something different. Don't do whatever everybody says and everybody does. My colleagues, they go for the JD. And they study 3 years and they end up with articling and being a lawyer in Canada because they study at JD. I want to change that. I want to be a person that comes from a civil jurisdiction who took a different step and also say, well, I'm licensed to practice law in Canada. You can call me a lawyer, but I have this different background with the ITLP, with the GPLM, and so much other things that I have to do being an NCA candidate. So, and Jane told me before I enrolled the other program, well, you know that you're taking calculated risks. And well, if I'm taking calculated risk, that's good. Everybody takes calculated risk, and they analyze and they say, well, there is risk all the time. This is the risk that I'm willing to take. And so far, it's working. We'll see what happens. I'll let you know. But but I recommend the ITLP even for civil jurisdiction lawyers before they enroll into the JD, because I believe that my career is moving forward and it's not moving in circles, which is what I think happens with the JD. And well, my name is Antonio Laneta, and I come from Venezuela. I practiced law, employment and labor law for 7 years. I was a law clerk for 2 years, and then I was the coordinator of the staff that worked there. And here, I have experienced 6 months in the Human Rights Legal Support Center as a volunteer in the Legal Research Department, and that was also a great experience. When I finished the ITLP, finishing the ITLP, I did an internship with the General Counsel Group of Royal Bank of Canada, and apparently my network skills are very good. So I was offered a contract which will finish in October 31st for 3 months also with the Royal Bank of Canada. I had some interviews and we'll see what happens later, but I don't have any regrets so far. So I support the ITLP and I recommend the ITLP.
Thank you. Yeah, again, they speak for themselves. Antonio did his internship with the Royal Bank of Canada. I'm not sure he's ever going to leave there. We'll see. At any rate, thank you so much, everybody. I wanted just to finish off. We're gonna wrap this in a minute, and then you can speak to people individually. But I asked people when I invited them to come today if they would think, and didn't ask Antonio this, so he's gonna have to do it on the spot, but I know he's up for it. If they could think of one piece of advice to give you right now, that is, as you're thinking about whether you're gonna requalify, as you're thinking about all these next steps, I wondered if they could look back and think about one piece of advice they would want to share with you at this point, just based on their experience. So, would anybody like to offer something? Okay, Parul, thank you.
This is a pretty intense program. Offers so much, but program is what you make of it. It requires a lot of commitment. One thing, if you're ready to commit, enroll for it. If you're not, take twice. They will help you. They will make you work so hard. You will be told to do so many things for your good, but you have to really keep working with them. If you're not making up for whatever fee you're paying, your time and everything. Second thing, it's a long process, as I said. There's an intermission, first part of the movie, second part of the movie. Takes slow. It takes, why from all today, it's really started to take toll on me. Jane asked me 2 months before, Parul, go with your pace, slow down, don't rush. I did not. Now I'm taking a 5-month break. So just weigh and balance. That's
Look after yourself, yeah. Thank you, Parul. Thanks.
Probably mine is the similar real approach. So all of you have very unique and different background. And some of you already have some more than 10, 20 years, some law practice in your home jurisdiction. So it's going to be very frustrating and time consuming. So I would advise you to encourage yourself, be a champion or sponsor of yourself. I have a personal story about this. I practiced law for 13 years in Korea before I came to Canada. Even though I deeply meditated and structured my move to Canada, I became very depressed at some point during ITLP, feeling somewhat lost in the middle of nowhere. I cannot do anything, doubting and some criticizing my decision to move at all, and worrying the future or uncertainties. I talked to Jane Price. At the time, she was the career coaching. About my feeling at the time, and she gave me this advice. Jane told me that I'm in a very unique and challenging situation, which anybody, even my wife, cannot understand what I'm undergoing. There is only me who can look back how significantly I made progress so far and encourage myself to continue this amazing journey. From that point, I started looking back and encouraging myself. I still have miles to go, even now, so I'm just started practicing. But ultimate destination, but I have now the courage to take one step forward by encouraging me at least. This may be a very lonely and long journey you have to go through by yourself. Don't forget there is no other companion along the path except you. Encourage yourself. That's my message.
Just to follow up on that, I think what I would tell people is find what works for you. I think you shouldn't worry about what other people are doing. I mean, everybody goes at a different pace. As Jane said, some people take 5 months to do exams, some people take 5 years. It is what works for you based on your personal situation, where you are in your life and what you want to do, how much you want to give, right? Like people, I'll get emails from people who are in the program. They'll say to me, what did you do? How did you do it? And I will be like, no, what do you want to do? And how do you want to do it, right? You can't do what I did. I can do what Antonio did. Everything works differently for everybody, right? And everybody goes to an experience and gets something different from it, right? Like you're all here listening to us, and you are probably taking something different from what I say or from what he says than she's taking from what the panel is saying, right? So it's find your niche, right? Find what works for you. Yes, we're going up when we're all done and qualified. We're going up against all these Canadian lawyers for a job placement, people who are born here. They understand the system, they understand the constitution, the political system, everything, and it's new and foreign to us. But as immigrants, we have something else to give. Look at his story. He's from Korea. Next month, he'll be leading a team from Stikeman Elliott to Korea to develop their business network or business, whatever they're doing there. But the point is, he had something special to offer Stikeman Elliott, which is why they're still keeping him around, right? It's finding your niche. Finding what makes you unique and what you have to offer, not what everybody else has to offer you. That's my advice.
Wow.
Well said, well said. All right, Dinah.
Follow up on what Keisha said, like finding your own niche, find your own pace too, like what Sue said. It's not, the one thing I learned from ITLP, it's not a race, it's a marathon.
Yes.
Like my journey is not done yet, and I'm like, how long have I started since I started 2011? And my former office mates from the job that I resigned from, they've been in touch with me and they're asking me now, oh, so are you a lawyer now? No, not yet. And even my family, my friends, they would ask me, oh, so are you a lawyer now? No, not yet. How many exams are you gonna write? Like every time I see them, there's an exam that I have to write because of 8 courses, right? So it's, but I'm not worried. I know that in the end, I'm gonna get what my goal is. I'm gonna reach that goal, I'm gonna achieve it. And that goal is to be a lawyer here. And it's a good thing that I found ITLP. It helped me to navigate that process, that very, very long process. Some of us may have friends here who are willing to help us go through the NCAs, help us with our, but ITLP gives us much more than that. Networking is one. Our batch has 47 lawyers from 17 different countries. So you have friends already. You have lawyer friends here in Canada. And they're gonna be called to the bar soon. So you'll have a network of lawyer friends later on, right? So networking is very important. It's something that I learned here in ITLP. And I know it's gonna help me in my career later on, whether I wanna practice law or not, after being called to the bar, doesn't matter. These friends are gonna be my friends for life, and that's another priceless thing that I got from ITLP.
Oh, thank you so much, Donna.
So I would like to say two things. One, to elaborate on the theme, that actually I had the word marathon in my head too. So Jane said it's a marathon. Of course, it is a marathon. But I felt, now that I know a little better, it is a marathon that started many, many years ago. This is just different, right? At the beginning, I thought, well, I have to get the exams and, I don't know, get called to the bar, and that's the point. That's the point of what? It's not gonna start there, or it's not gonna finish there. It's a whole career, and a career is for the whole life. So my career started long time ago, and it will continue through the time until I die, maybe. The point is that in Canada there are standards, and we need to satisfy the regulator. Voila. So when we satisfy the regulator, which is very difficult, we will get the license and we will continue our career. I don't think that I'm wasting my time making all these studies and all this effort, because it's my career. So it is a marathon that starts so far away, and it will continue so long ahead of me. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I have to strongly disagree, respectfully, with Sanjeev, because, Sanjeev, right?
Sanjeev, yeah.
Sanjeev. Because I don't think that I'm alone. Yes, those are my decisions, and I have to make the decisions by myself. But I think it's a teamwork environment with the ITLP and with the legal industry in general. It is very difficult to communicate with the legal industry, but believe me, they're supporting us to continue in this path. So it is a teamwork environment, and every mentor that you meet, every program that you enroll, what they want is that you succeed. It takes a long time, but we're not alone. It's your decision, but we're not alone.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. We have the greatest guests. Anyways, now we have some questions. We actually have some questions from somebody virtually.
Yes.
And also I wanted to take questions from the room. But Ainsley, why don't we answer the virtual question first, if you could pose it for us?
Yeah, we have a question about how we've talked a lot about the process of becoming a lawyer, and someone was wondering about sort of job prospects afterwards, especially Dinah, you mentioned not being a native English speaker and how that can affect it. So I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that.
I'm still in the art process. Well, I said, initially my goal is just to become a lawyer. After that, I think it opens, Santil's already here right now, so it's another journey after that. A lot of ways to practice the profession. You can be a sole practitioner, you can go work with government, or work job prospects. If you look at the statistics, it's not that favorable, I'd say. And then you factor in, it's something that all immigrants, I'd say, would think about. And certainly when we were studying I was in the ITLP program with Zengale, like every time we meet, it's the topic of conversation. Job prospects afterwards, what happens afterwards. Well, for me, I'm sure Sankil is too.
I have one comment. Don't hesitate to become a lawyer because of the job prospect. Think about it after you are called to the bar. Let's discuss later.
Well,
here are some jobs.
Yeah. My experience after I got called to the bar, I'm not gonna lie, it was very difficult for me to find a job. Like when I got called to the bar, I was so excited. I saw all these ads going out. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna apply for all of these. So everything I thought I qualified for, I applied for. So there'd be an ad for like a real estate associate with like 1 to 2 years experience or something like that. I applied, never heard back. I tried working with one of these career placement places that do lawyer placements. I was basically told that although I had 3 years experience from another jurisdiction, in Canada, I am considered a new call to the bar, and they don't work with new calls because you know, the way to get a job as a new call is to be hired through your articling experience. So I think that is a barrier that is worth considering. It is extremely unfortunate, but a lot of employers, I will hesitate using the word prejudice, which I just did, but a lot of employers, I think, have a hesitation with hiring foreign trained lawyers. And one thing I'm very upset about too is that most of us who come to Canada through the skilled workforce, whatever program, we migrate to Canada based on our qualifications, based on the fact that you are a lawyer. When you apply to the Law Society for exemption from articling, you are granted the exemption based on your experience. But yet when you go for a job, your experience doesn't count. So I can't understand why there's this disparity between what the Law Society thinks about us and what the real world hiring pool thinks about us. It's not on the same level. And I found it to be particularly disturbing. And the way I found my first job was I started volunteering in legal services in the town where I lived, and that's how I got a job. As Dinah said, it's what you make of your experience, how you work. So I started volunteering there, and after like 6 weeks, they offered me a contract because I think it takes a really brave step to move to another country. A country that you don't know anybody, you are moving with the money that you have. You don't know what is gonna happen when you get there. Like I came to Canada a couple of times before I moved here, but for some people, the day they landed is the first time they were ever coming to Canada. So it's a huge step and you have to be really brave to do it. And I think that a lot of us who come here as foreign lawyers, we are really bright. Exactly. I mean, somebody who barely passed their bar exams in whatever country they're coming from, they will most likely not want to take this step, right? And I don't think we are satisfied with mediocre careers. And I think we just need the right opportunity, or we have to make the opportunities from the few that we get to establish ourselves, to show that we are really smart and we are as good as Canadian trained lawyers. And I think when we get into just that one foot in through the door and we show that, then they keep us around, and that, I think, those things will help break down the barrier or the prejudice of the foreign trained lawyer.
I would say that we have a number of organizations. We have 25 different organizations that partner with us and offer internships. And I would say that those organizations offer internships to our students because they recognize that people who come from other jurisdictions have challenges that they face. When you immigrate, there's so many things you have to deal with. So they can see that you're not on a level playing field with someone who graduated from Ontario or Canadian law school. So there's much interest in trying to be helpful. I think if in that milieu you are excellent, those organizations will be very interested in you. And the reason they'll be very interested is not because they love you and they're nice, they're really nice, friendly people, but because, for example, they see somebody like Sangil and they think, this person can help us in our business. I think there are business opportunities that people want, and what they recognize about internationally trained lawyers who maybe have 5 or 10 years practice in another jurisdiction is that they're not equivalent to a JD who just graduated from an Ontario law school. Because you have worked with lawyers or with clients and you know the business, so you're a little bit like a bargain. I'm not saying the employment market out there is a picture of roses, it is not. But you have something special as an internationally trained lawyer with experience, and if you can go into that with that attitude, I think you can create manage your opportunities. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, yeah. I would.
Yeah.
And another little bit I just wanted to add that here as an immigrant too, you have the opportunity where you probably have a lot of immigrants from your country or your region that you can tap into that market. You can start your own firm as he has done, and reach out to people who are from your own country. So you don't really have to rely on like finding a job where you're serving Canadians, but you can try to serve your own people who will know you and feel more comfortable with you and stuff like that. So that's also something to think about.
I will answer that question with it depends, and getting to answering questions with it depends. You have to be strategic. You have to know what you want, where you're standing, what the market is offering. So I cannot ask for a job as a lawyer at this point because I have all these paths to go through. But I can ask for something else, and I have to look where they're looking for that. So it depends. If you're looking for a job as a lawyer, yeah, it will be very difficult. You're not gonna get it at this point. But if you're looking for something else, and you can help your community, for example, whether it's local, or if it's global, can you contact people from your country where you come from? That would be fantastic in a globalized economy. So it depends.
Are there other questions?
Hi, I have a question to the whole panel. How long it takes for you from the very beginning to the time that you actually earn some money as a licensed
Long time.
Yeah, just, you know, I want to kind of get an idea.
Are you of a common law background or civil?
Civil, but I'm licensed here in Ontario as a paralegal.
Okay.
Okay.
The answer is it depends.
Yes.
Yeah, but an average, just
I don't think we can come up with an average, but we can tell you how long it took people on this particular panel. So Keisha Ann took 2 years.
I started ITLP in May 2010, and my first paying job was April 2012, I'm gonna say.
oh, it's not that bad.
Well, that was 2 years.
2
Keisha Ann was a very
Yes,
fast one
2
though.
years,
And
yeah.
Saigil, what about you?
I started the whole process some beginning of 2011, and I started on the not as a lawyer, but started on the some salary from 2012 April, so 1 and less than half years, but as a lawyer 2.5 years.
And Parul, you're still in the accreditation process,
Yeah,
right?
so I have one more exam to go.
Yeah, but
No,
NCA.
I'm still in the NCA process. I have a short stories to share with some
That'd be
time.
great, yeah.
Yeah, regarding that question, which Ainsley said, I came here in June 2011. August, I was like looking for small jobs in the legal industry. I had no clue about. I had no idea about this ITLP program, and I met with this employment counselor, and he connected me, as he saw my resume, as I practice law in India. He connected me to a woman who practiced at a major firm for 7 years, but she quit and she got this new job of employment counselor. And he said that, would you like to talk to her? I said, well, that would be nice. And he told that this is called an informational interview. Have a list of questions ready. What do you want to know about the legal career, whatever. I got this thing. I met this woman next week, and you will be surprised. My first informational interview, or my first point of contact, somebody who was lawyer, ex-lawyer, and she said, you know what? Forget about it. It's pretty depressing. The culture, the work. It's yes, this is true. And I think I was already homesick. I had not unpacked my bag. And she said, we who have been like raised here, Canadian people, it's pretty difficult to get a job. And even if you got the job, it's pretty competitive. I don't know. And that was really bad of her, but still. I didn't stop trying. I was like getting in touch with different people. And a friend of mine, she connected me to somebody who is currently in-house counsel at St. Michael's Hospital. She agreed to see me. She was a very shy person, or too busy, too much. She agreed to see me in 7:30 in the morning. She gave me like 20 minutes, but we ended up talking like for 1 hour and like 45 minutes.
Wow.
That woman, I just told her that and I think that was the time when I had a little bit information about ITLP. I told her that there's this program, and she said, you know what, I moved from US, I had 4 exams to write, I did it on my own, and if you have something like that, take advantage of it, go for it. But I told her that I'm looking for, at that point, I was starting to look for retail jobs. I was like, I'm not going to pursue my career as a lawyer. I was too depressed. She said, you know what? You have your whole life. You're too young. Take your credentials, do the NCAs, and you can, if you don't get a job, you can go into retail later on, but give it a shot. And I mean, she's the first mentor to me. I'm still in touch with her. That really, that was a decision-making point. And I think a week next, I came and submitted my application to Ainsley. So this is how it is. And about the job, live example, Antonio, he's brilliant at networking. Third example, and fourth, I'll give you two more examples. The people are not here. Yan, you have to plant seeds. First, figure out what you want, what you're looking for, have a flavor of different fields. If you get into this program, you'll have an opportunity, like during internship, to rotate, whatever it is, and start talking to people. Networking is not appropriate to meet somebody a week before and then send an email. Can you talk to that person? No, you have to build true connections over the time. And that's why I mentioned earlier, it is a long process. Continue your networking, be very wise, start doing it right now. Start talking to people so that once you're done with the NCA, once you're done with bars, once you're done with your whatever, take your time. 2 years, 3 years from now, when those people see you, not like after 3 years, intermittently, you'll keep in touch with them. They know what you were looking. They will be able to connect you to the right people. So it is not, don't get disheartened if somebody says job. Look, every field is difficult. Doctors, upgrading your MBBS degree here, it's pretty difficult. It's pretty same. My classmate, Pooja, her husband is doing the medical degree here, like the same we have, and it's pretty same. He's been doing it for a long time. So my advice is not to give hope, just keep going. I just wanted to share this bit.
I wanna add a concept or a definition or a word to put in your heads for the project ahead, and it's trust. We have to build trust with the persons that we deal with. If a person is going to give you a job, that person needs to trust in you. So while you're building your network, you have to be honest, you have to say whatever you feel. Well, you have to, okay, I take that back. You just have to say it in a nice way. If you're going through a rough moment, say it in a positive way for the person to understand that you're going through a rough moment. You're not going to say, oh, I'm depressed. No, I take that back. So, but you have to build that trust with the person that you want or the organization that you want to be. So trust, have it in your minds for the next year.
Are there more questions from the floor?
What subjects do you teach at the ITLP and how is the course structured?
The first term is an in-class term. It starts in May and it goes until August, and we teach criminal law and foundations of Canadian law. And then students typically would write those two exams in August, the third week of August. Starting in late August and running into early October, we have a 6-week term in which we teach all of constitutional law. It's a very intensive course, and then students write constitutional law in October. Starting in October, we teach professional responsibility and administrative law, and we teach 2 additional courses, and those courses are determined by a canvassing of the class, and we find out what extra courses they most need. So this year, we'll be teaching evidence and contracts. Each year, those last 2 courses depend. In addition to that, we have a career skills course that runs for 7 weeks at the beginning of term. We have a legal research and writing course that's about 50 hours. We have a legal technology course. We have a workplace culture and communication course, and we have a language and communication course. Those are all offered simultaneously throughout the year.
So do you have classes every day? Or?
No, our class program changes a little bit from term to term, and right now the Faculty of Law at the University of Toronto is under construction. So our classes are not necessarily all here, shall we say. But they're offered 2 or 3 days a week in most of the in-class terms. The in-class terms go from May until January. And usually in the 3rd term, there's an evening course. So it'd be 2 days and 1 evening.
Okay.
All right.
Any internships?
Internships are full-time, Monday to Friday for 3 months, 12 weeks.
If you get one.
Yeah, she doesn't know anything.
I'm just throwing it in there. Somebody told me about that.
it's not guaranteed that we get one.
No, what happens with the internships is we have legal employers who say that they are willing to accept applications from our students for internships. And then they look at your applications and they say, I really like Keishan's application, I really like your application, but I don't like your application, Jane, or you don't have the skills I need. So they select who they want to interview, they hold the interviews, and then they say to us, we would like to take one of these 3 candidates. And then we work with all the lists of people who want students and all the places we want to place students, and we try to keep the internship posts happy, keep the students happy, and place the maximum number of students. So
After that, you have to take the bar council exam and then after
you have to do 2 separate processes. You have to accredit your degree under the National Committee of Accreditation. You have to write all of those exams. Once you've done that, and that may take you may be able to finish that during the ITLP, or you may have 5 more exams at the end of the ITLP. It depends on how many exams you write and how many exams you're assigned to write. After you complete the National Committee process, then you enter the licensing process. And you're only eligible to enter the licensing process once you've completed the National Committee process. So if you haven't written to the National Committee and you want to think about requalifying, you should go home today and write to the National Committee on Accreditation, because it will take a long time.
No, or do you transfer?
Yes. Listen to Keisha. Go to the website, find out what you need, order the documents, and then, yeah, exactly.
I've already applied for that.
Okay, and when did you apply?
Like 2 months ago.
Okay, you're well on your way. Yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, one at the bottom down.
Hi.
Hi.
When do the career programs start? And can you enter it at any given time or?
The career program started today.
Okay.
First class was today. Colleen ran it in this class. It's being offered in this class and virtually. And it runs from October until April, correct?
Yes.
Does it have a second term? So
No.
No, so it's just once per year?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're interested, you can follow up with Colleen after. Okay, well, you have one more question. Okay, so why don't we break up now, and then you can visit with everybody. You've got a bio sheet of everyone. Unfortunately, Antonio Urdaneta is not on the bio sheet, but you know that he's a civil lawyer, that he finished our program last year, and that he's a friendly fellow.
Yes.
So he'll answer questions about civil lawyers. If you have questions for me or any of the staff, we're all here. We do have to leave the room by, oh my goodness, we have to leave the room by 4:30, so we better speed ask our questions.